Hello everyone, this is the simulation long-term assignment instructional video. I'm just going to go through some stuff on Blackboard to make sure everyone has their questions answered. So each of you are in groups of 7, and there's 4 groups for the class. And the way that this will happen is one group will go at 8, 9, 10, 11 or so on the day of the activity, and so every group will be split up that way. This project is split into 3 parts. Part 1, the white paper, Part 2, planning, and Part 3, which is the day of the activity, which is the reason why you can't miss class April 23rd, is that doing your simulation and engaging in a simulation are required for points. So if we click through Part 1 is the white paper. If you click on to the portion here, it's the same as if you click in the assignment, but essentially the first module of the assignment is the white paper, which is a proposal document. A white paper is your explanation of a potential idea that are rooted in typical athletic training experiences and reflective of what those are. The goal is to do quality improvement, and so this should be something that your classmates can practice that will help them get better at some skills. The objective of this is to critically reflect upon your own clinical practice and those of your group members and find out an idea for something you want them to learn and practice in terms of healthcare skills. Each group will summarize their idea in the white paper and considerations for their simulation. So the things in this white paper that you should submit are the topic and content. How does a group of other learners work in terms of doing a medical response? You have to plan something that can 7 other athletic trainers can participate in, and you can do that in multiple ways, where you do the same simulation multiple times with 1 to 2 people. You can do it where they have to work as a group or a team, but each of those people will be partaking in the group as an athletic trainer. You can't make them a role that they aren't supposed to be participating in. So you have to have them do something as an athletic trainer. The other people, the other 3 groups, they can be your patients, they can be coaches, they can be whoever you want them to be, parents, and so you can use them within the group, or we can find other people for you. And those are things that you need to be mindful of. But I want you to think about how you can make the people in the other groups, they can portray whatever, but the people that are the group that you're going to be hosting it for, they are going to be athletic trainers and healthcare providers and what they should be doing during that. So you have to find a personnel requirement and thinking about something that could involve multiple people or multiple stations going on. Find a venue. So consider where you could host this on campus, and how we can make it work here in either the building at Blatt, maybe outside on some of the practice fields nearby, where we're going to be able to host this simulation for yourself. If you are thinking about doing it outside or inside, be mindful to throw out some potential ideas. Find something that's feasible for us to use, including maybe one of your own clinical sites. And then thinking about large-scale supplies for the event. So what are things that you'll be necessary to create an authentic environment? This can be things like athletic training related supplies, specific instances where you need equipment to make the thing look like the thing. So if you're going to create like, I don't know, a bus crash, probably going to need a bus. And so being mindful that we don't always have all the resources and access to things, but how can we create some of these things to be able to make this happen? And these are things where you can throw out multiple ideas. So if you have this idea for this one, but you have an idea for multiple, you can throw out the white paper to have 2 specific ideas. But the goal of this is that the topic and the content have to be rooted in some type of medical issue or recreation of an activity that has already occurred that you want to help people practice on. The goal is team-based creativity for the concept and design. I will want you to look through the syllabus and find some things that we may be practicing this semester and be able to integrate those in. But you could also do this on primary care, orthopedics, anything else that you're learning and practicing as an athletic trainer. It does not have to be some of these other instances and skills that we're doing in class. The goal of this is to target your peers and help them become more knowledgeable and skilled in the environment to prepare them for things that may not be happening at their clinical sites. Very similar to the topic I discussed with legal case briefs today, is that you need to be mindful that we need to prepare for the things that we're not really good at, and this is a great way to help each other get better at those things. you should consider doing a learner analysis. So thinking about what your classmates may be struggling at or be having difficult implementing into their clinical practice. The group must write and provide the learning objectives. When you write learning objectives, they should be written using descriptive language. And so if you are unsure of what to look, there's a thing called the learning objective wheel for Bloom's taxonomy. And this is where you can open this up. Let's see if I can get it a little bit bigger. You can see it here, but if you want them to gain knowledge, analysis, application, you should use words that match up here. So if you want them to apply things, your learning objectives should be able to apply, modify, report, and then these should be the things that they're doing. They should be able to create a puzzle, stuff like that. If you're wanting them to do something, it should be one of these areas. But if you want them to comprehend knowledge, being able to explain, discuss, that's talking and not necessarily the learning objectives you want to match there. Do not use the word understand. Understand is not descriptive and you can't measure it. And so being mindful to use some of these good words here when you're writing your learning objectives on your learning wheel. If we go back to Blackboard now, after a feasibility assessment by the instructor, I'll get back to you and let you know which one of these you can continue planning to execute. That's why this is due so early on in the semester at February 5th, is that I want to have something in place for you to move forward and continue working on. When we have our guest speaker series come to campus, Dr. Stacy Walker and Dr. Lindsay Everman have extensive background in training and simulation, and so they are going to be able to meet with you one-on-one and discuss your simulation and get some more ideas for part 2. Part 2 is not due until April 9th, so you literally have all semester to work on this once I give you feedback. This part 1 is 7.5% of your grade. Part 2 is 7.5% of your grade, and then part 3 is just participating it, and each of the sections is both 7.5% of your grade. So if we think about this in the totality, this is a 30% of your grade assignment, so you should be putting in time and effort into this. Part 2 is where you're going to describe what you're actually going to be doing. So prepare all the specifics. You're going to have to create everything. Literally everything. So your goal is to create a 30-minute experience with a 30-minute debrief, so a 60 minutes total for your group, and be able to facilitate a debriefing experience, being able to make sure that people are meeting. You also are required to meet with me 2 additional times throughout the semester. So sometime between February 5th and April 9th, you have to meet with me 2 times, and that will go into your part 2 planning grade. We can do this virtually, we can do it in my office, you can do it however you want, but everybody from your group has to be there, and I can meet y'all outside of class time after work too. We can meet up somewhere in town and just chat about your simulation. The purpose of this, though, is for skill practice, and the only way that we can help people achieve that is to keep these things confidential. You should not tell the other groups what you're doing until we get to the point that we are ready to train other people in your groups, other things like that. But the group doing your simulation, you won't know until a little bit later, but you don't talk about this outside of your group. Make sure that it's kept confidential and you work through preparation in this area by yourself and in your groups. Part 2 is going to take a lot of time in preparation and group collaboration about who's doing what. So once all the part 1s are submitted and we get everyone's simulation done, I'll make another video and touch base on part 2. But part 1 should be somewhat short. It's a proposal document, and it should give you a base knowledge about what you should be doing. If you're unsure of what the assignment description is reading, I wrote a paper on this, so if you want to, you can Google my name, which is weird, but you can click on here, and it is this article right here. And this describes your learning experience that you're going to be doing. So if you want to go on here and read through essentially what you would be doing, and how this could come to be and how we make it out and what the purpose of it is, you can go back and read this article that's in ATJ about this learning experience and what we're doing. So you are creating something for your own classmates, and in doing so, you're learning how to develop continuing education that you can take into your workplace and develop for your own bosses and co-workers, and use this same thing to help people that are working alongside you as a leader and post-professional advanced athletic trainer, to do the same thing in your workplace, but at the same time how to develop your own skill practice. We know that going to continuing education, going to conferences and lectures is not enough, and we need to be able to practice the skill in terms of creating behavior change and making those lasting impressions on you. And the best way to do that is through simulation, especially when some of these things are things you can't create or plan for at your clinical site. So hopefully this video helps to understand and explain the simulation a little bit more, and please begin working with your group identifying a thing. Only one group can do the same thing, so if you have multiple ideas, jot them down, or if you have one main idea but you have some backup ideas, write those down in case another group all does the same thing. We can play through some of your other ideas. Be creative, but also don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. Don't interject something that is not common practice. If you really think X, Y, or Z is something we're struggling with in athletic training, let's get better at it and work on the simulation to develop it. And I look forward to reading them, and I'll get you guys feedback on those as they come in after February 5th pretty soon, and make sure we're working forward on that. I again will make another video for part 2 and how those are going to work forward, but please be discussing with your part 1 group for your simulation as we move forward. Thanks.